so it's tough, but it's like, it feels like a genuine Rooster Teeth production. You know, we used all of our own, you know, production crews internally to make it, peppered in there with cast members that people are used to seeing. So it's been great so far, but it's been hard. You know, those things are always tough. Yeah, gentlemen all the way in the back there.
For creators that are just, like myself, really trying to launch a channel, if there is a checklist or things to do, what would you say to someone like me who's like, okay, you're starting a channel, you've got your format figured out, now it's just a matter of things 1 through 5 or 1 through 10. What would those things be to build the brand?
There's a great video that I would recommend you watch. You sit here and play it. It's a TED Talk. It's called How to Build a Movement. And it's a really great TED Talk. And I would recommend that anybody, you leave here, don't watch it now because that'd be embarrassing for me. So you but it's a guy who talks about, he took it was a music festival, and it's a guy dancing on a hill. Like, just, he's clearly a little bit out of his mind. And he's like this lone lunatic just dancing on a hill. And then these two other guys walk up next to him and start like dancing exactly like he's dancing. And over the course of about a minute, the entire hill is filled with probably about 1,000 people all dancing. And the point that the speaker made in it was, it's not about the lone nut. You know, that's the lunatic dancing on the hill. And often we tell stories about creators, we focus on that guy, the guy who started it all. But it's really about that first follower. It's about that person who showed everyone else how to interact with what the lone nut was doing. And so I would say, if you're just launching and you're just starting out, building a brand, find those first followers. Find those people who are really dedicated to what you're making. And you don't have to find 1,000 of them. You find a few of them and you can build from there. And those people will help you. Rooster Teeth, we exist because, you know, we've lasted as long as we have. I think it's because we focus so much on community. You know, we build forums and because we love that stuff. We love getting in there and discussing it. You know, at the time we were discussing like Lost and what the hatch meant and things like that. But we were having conversations with the community and building a relationship with them, and that's what has stood the test of time for us. So I would do that. I think that can be hard on YouTube. I think if you get in the comments, I don't know that that's the most robust community on the web. I think you can reach out to other places. Like, we just started working with this group, Kind of Funny. They have forums, and it's like, you know, get in there, you know, get to know the people in the Kind of Funny community. These are people that watch video for a living, you know? Or not for a living, excuse me, for entertainment. That's what they do. So if you're part of that community and you put out a video, you know, they'll watch your stuff. It's how we know Gavin, Free of the Slow-Mo Guys. He was just some 15-year-old British idiot on our site, and he was making videos of himself jumping, doing flips off of his couch, and then started shooting videos in his backyard. And then one day, he shot a slow motion video using his next door neighbor's slow motion camera. And now he has a channel that like is bigger than anything else that we make. You know, fuck that guy. But and so it's like just identifying him is you know, a big step in the process. But Gavin was able to get some traction because he was part of a community and then started making video from it. So I would say, find those people that are watching your videos, even if it's only 3 views. Find those people that are watching, communicate with them, start building the community, because it's one of those things that once you spend efforts on it, the rewards become exponential. And then of course from a production standpoint, I would say a regular set of content, be very direct in what you're doing, be very deliberate in the content that you're making so that people can understand what your voice is.
Yeah, and one of the other tools that you have at your disposal as well that I don't think get used nearly enough is YouTube's analytics. They're incredibly powerful. You can see on every video exactly like where people drop off on your videos, what they stayed for, what they backed up and watched again. And so keeping an eye on what it is that people are sticking around for and what it is that they're not as interested in can help to drive your content as well. That will help you to refine your specific format.
I also want to say as you're building something too, especially if you're doing, series are much more common now. And series can be a little frustrating because the first episodes do well and the last episode of like a season does well, but everything is kind of like a trough in the middle, measuring just by views. But series are a very long form, they're a long play. You know, we can make a series like Red vs. Blue, it has millions and millions of fans, but there's never going to be an episode of Red vs. Blue that's as big as like the guy that fell off his ladder that day, you know, or, you know, the cat that ate a hot dog. You know, it's just like that viral video of the day, you're never gonna beat that. But those things come and go. And, you know, the series is a much longer play. And building a brand, you have to have a more long-term mindset. And the other thing that's crazy about it is you will never know what the episode is that's gonna explode and put your series on the map. You know, we put out 5 years of Red vs. Blue, the first 5 seasons, and if I asked somebody like, what was your first episode that you watched, I never got the same answer. I mean, episode 39, the first episode of season 3, was one of our biggest episodes. And that was, you know, we were more than 2 years into the process at that point, so you just never know. I don't know who has mics. We were here in the back.
Hello?
Hey.
Yeah. So you said that you're working with a lot of series and you're in competition with HBO and Netflix. YouTube as a platform isn't really the best place for premium content. So what can YouTube as a platform do better to help creators organize content or basically just make series with these large productions more findable or easier to access instead of one-off viral videos?
Well, I think the biggest thing that YouTube has is almost all of the eyeballs. I mean, YouTube is bigger than any network in terms of viewership. So I think that if people are willing themselves to take the risk and make higher production, higher budget content, I think the rewards are there. I think, you know, something can break out and be a huge hit. I mean, we've certainly made some things that were above the budget of what people would normally associate with YouTube. And then of course you have the YouTube Red initiative where, I mean, we took our feature film and we helped launch, or, you know, we were launch titles for YouTube Red. And you can see like the billboards they're putting up, you know, the kind of content they're making is, you know, they're reaching out to creators who have a track record and saying, how do we take, you know, your content to the next level? So those kinds of things, you know, they are in the works. Just like any other form of entertainment, those things are more scarce, so they're a lot more competitive as well. But certainly not more competitive than trying to get a show on HBO or on Netflix. I mean, I think that YouTube Red is we're gonna look back in a number of years and like see so many amazing creators that came out of the YouTube Red program. It's gonna be amazing.
It's also worth noting that as like a series doesn't necessarily mean something that takes more than one person to create. It doesn't require a production crew doing a huge scripted series. It can also be just a specific format of content. Maybe you're doing like list videos and then you want to try doing cooking stuff. They can be 2 different series and you may be able to take breaks, like do seasons of those shows that are all completely driven by you and they can all live together. But it's about the timing. You know, when you talk about this series and like the first and the last episodes do great because people react better, like they want to see something if they think it's being taken away. Give it a rest, give it a break, and then come back. So you can treat your own content on your own channel very much like a network, in that some of your shows may take breaks, rest, build a new library, and then come back. And it's not all necessarily down to like, well, you know, playlists and specific shows.
No, yeah, it's like the thing we were talking about before with like check boxes is, you know, the check boxes that you do of like what it takes to make a good channel and good series, you can check all those boxes and that just kind of gets you your ticket in the door. Like at that point, then, you know, you don't know how things are going to work out. It's the audience building and those efforts that you make that make those things possible. Yeah, how about right here?
Hello.
Hello.
So
Is that a new Wade shirt, by the way?
It's 10 years old.
Is it really? We
Yeah.
make great products.
So my question to you, with Rooster Teeth now having about 40 shows, or having gone through 40 shows, and I think you mentioned 230 employees.
Yeah, we're about 230 employees now.
How do you keep that creative atmosphere alive to be so experimental and so innovative after all the different challenges that come from it?
Well, you know, it's the question being like, how do you keep the creative spirit alive? For us, it's important to maintain the culture of Rooster Teeth because we think that's important to people. I also said in the last panel that our company is as big a personality itself as any individual within it, and that the culture we have at Rooster Teeth and kind of like the lifestyle behind it is just something that we put very much front and center. So we're very, very protective of that. And like even we have like other big brands that we start to build, like Achievement Hunter and Funhouse. you know, we want to make sure that those fit into the overall feel of Rooster Teeth, you know? And a lot of that tends to be organic because we hire people that we think are funny, and then we abuse the hell out of them, and if they can't take it, they leave. But, you know, it's like, sometimes it's a little bit of a trial by fire, but at the end of the day, we just have to be very protective of the culture. What that also leads to as well is being very protective of the artists. And luckily, the founders of the company are a group of artists who worked on productions for a long period of time, so we're aware of these issues, like we've hit creative walls ourselves. And probably the best example of it is our late animator, Monty Ohm. He was the head animator for Red vs. Blue seasons 8, 9, and 10. And I had a conversation with him and I said, Monty, I said, look, you can animate Red vs. Blue till the end of time. The show can run for another 10 years and it would be great and everybody would love it if you had these amazing fight scenes in Red vs. Blue, and that would be tremendous. But I feel like long term it's better if we, you know, is there anything that you want to do? Is there any show you want to make? Like pretty much like you've done your time, do you want to do something new? And he pitched a show called Ruby, which is going to turn out to be the biggest show that we've ever made. I mean, that show is growing by leaps and bounds. And it was just those conversations that Matt and I had with him of like, you know, let's try to be proactive about this. Let's not wait for somebody to hit the wall and try to go there. So you have to pivot. It's a little bit easier though, and I acknowledge this, is that we have a team that's easier. But what Ashley was saying about, you know, having seasons and things like that, you can build in language into your content. Like, hey, this is episode 10 of season 1. Just saying the word season implies that you can stop for a little bit and take a break. Even though you might not need it now, you know, in December when you want to take some time off for the holidays, you can end the season. Also, people will always watch the season finale of something, I don't know why. They'll watch the season finale, it gets more views, and then you start the next season, you know, when you need to. Even if you end a season on Tuesday and start the next season on Wednesday, you know, you at least are building in that kind of verbiage with your audience.
Hello.
Hey.
So obviously you guys have been a big success, but looking back over your growth and like an alternate history, can you like identify a place where you could have made a really bad mistake that would have ended that early?
Oh, like biggest mistakes in the history of the company?
Yeah, like where you, the biggest mistake that you almost made but then didn't.
Almost made? Biggest mistake is Joel Heyman. I mean, a lot of that is, gosh, I'd say that's a really interesting question because I think we've come close to a couple things like that. I would say probably the biggest thing that I watched other people step in was in the late 2000s, like 2008, 2009, when YouTube was taking off, there was suddenly like an interest of television networks and getting pilots from popular YouTube shows. And people would write a pilot and they would disappear from their online audience. And without really explaining why, because they had to be secretive about their secret project that was going on TV. So they would abandon their online audience for sometimes as little as 3 or 6 months. And then as these things tend to not happen, the pilots didn't happen, and then they would go back to their online audience and they were gone. I mean, they were absolutely gone. And the discussion of how to make it on YouTube that's the big discussion at VidCon. But if you're fortunate enough to where people start watching your content, trust me when I say that making it is impossibly difficult. Maintaining it and keeping it going is probably equally as difficult. It's to keep an audience coming back and keep that momentum going is very difficult. And I'd say it gets harder over time. And the really unfortunate thing about it, like we talked about with Homestar Runner, is that the internet just has a short memory. I mean, they really do. It's like, if you stop making, you know, Ask a Ninja for 6 months and then come back and make another episode of Ask a Ninja, it was just, the audience is not there anymore. So I would say our thing, we got close to, we had somebody who wanted to turn RVB into a network show. And we made an animated version of it that was separate from the show, and we just never stopped making the show. So, but, you know, the idea that you go and have a TV show, you know, from the thing you're making in your spare bedroom, that was like really cool, but we were like, you know, the whole world, media world, is moving in this direction. We just have to be patient and wait for it to come. You know, everyone is heading this way. And then, you know, in the last few years, that like eventuality has become imminent, where everyone is now sprinting towards the digital world. You're watching the way the television networks are reacting. you know, the way that content creators are reacting. It's like everyone's moving to the digital space. So I'm very glad that we didn't make that choice to move to television. How about you?
Yeah, taking a break, like it becomes a balancing act because, you know, we've talked about like the idea of having seasons with content so that you can take a little bit of time off or do something different and pivot. So it's striking a balance between that, taking a break, trying something new, refreshing, and also maintaining the audience, maintaining the community, maintaining really the dialogue. Like you want to be present with your community at all times. If you stop that, if you stop having the interactions, then you don't have a community anymore.
Yeah, and Ashley's she has a ton of experience. She's worked in video games longer than any of us. She was part of the first all-female professional gaming team. Back, it was esports now, but back then it was called pro gaming. So she was a lifelong pro gamer and then had to make a transition, you know. Once you lose those skills at like 20, you know? It's like the weirdest senior league ever for esports. It's like, oh, I'm 19 and a half, I gotta think about retirement. What am I gonna do? Anybody else? Yeah, how about right here? We don't have to wait for the mics either. I can repeat your question too.
Hi, my name is Megan. I wanted to ask, so I myself, I'm in college right now. I'm a multimedia major, which is, it focuses on some video game development and it also focuses on online video. What I wanted to know was, does being in, I don't know exactly how you guys started off. I know that you just started off with call center job, but I mean, I'm trying to work in the industry and I'm trying to get more into it with my major and stuff. Mm-hmm. Does that help? Because at some point, like, ideally, I would like to be part of a company like Rooster Teeth. I wouldn't want to just be like a single YouTuber doing vlogs or whatever. So, does having a background, and I know knowing people helps a lot, knowing people in the industry. But like, I just want to know, basically, does it help, or am I just wasting my time in my major?
Stay in school, everybody. To answer your question very directly, it is not necessary, but it is exceptionally helpful because a lot of creators tend to be younger people, and a lot of times when they get an opportunity and they come and talk to me, it's like, oh, I think it'd be really great, especially because Achievement Hunter exploded on YouTube in the last few years. That's our gameplay group. They do Let's Play videos where they play video games and do very funny commentary over the top of it. It's one of those things that when you see other people doing it, it seems very easy. It seems really easy to play a video game and just talk. But they're very talented guys that do it. And you know, when people come and talk to me, they say, oh, I've always wanted to be an achievement hunter. You know, I want to do something, I want to be a Let's Player. You guys should audition me for that. I'm like, well, do you have any videos that you've made? I'll be happy to take a look at it. And it's like, they don't. And that just says to me, they don't know what it's like to sit down with a controller in their hand. That mic is right there, it's recording, and it's like, go. Because that moment, until you do that, you don't know. And I think that the fact that the educational tracks and majors now exist where you can practice those things, you're honing that craft in that process so that when someone says to you, can I see your reel or can I see some of your work? It's not just an idea in your head that you might want to do this. You have spent a significant portion of your life and a lot of your money to hone that craft. But I would say, so it's not absolutely necessary, it's not a disqualifier, but it definitely puts you way ahead of a lot of people if that's your goal.
You'll also find that you don't have to complete a major or anything before you start working, before you start experimenting and trying things out. You know, like if you find a project that's beyond your current skill levels, learn what you need to in order to complete that project, to go on. You'll become much more experienced much more quickly. And you know, by the time you graduate, by the time you have your major, you'll be head and shoulders above your peers who waited. That's the beautiful thing about YouTube as a medium and just the online world as it is now, is the tools are so accessible that you don't have to wait until you feel you're ready, because we're never ready. You know, if we wait, then we'll never even get it started. So trying and then forcing yourself to learn in order to overcome that stuff is a great compliment to formal education as well. And it also, like Burnie was saying, starts a body of work. Where you can prove that you can be dedicated to something and complete work, like complete projects, and do all of that. That's the biggest thing towards getting employment, is like wanting it. Wanting it is worth garbage. It won't.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. For more videos, click on the screen and visit my website for cool merchandise.